Hi everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Just Good Games. Today I will be reviewing the latest spin-off of the masterpiece that was Persona 5. Persona 5 Strikers. The twist this time round is that it's the same amazing storytelling and characters from Persona 5 but with the combat of Dynasty Warriors. But before we get into it, and before we get into this, I want you guys and girls to do a couple of things. Get down there, hit that subscribe button, and also give this video a cheeky like. So we start with the story, and this comes with a bit of a caveat. If, like me, you have played the original Persona 5 and absolutely loved it, then you will know all of the amazing characters' backstories, the whole dynamic of the group, the story of the Phantom Thieves, and just the lore of the entire world. So if, like me, and you have all of this knowledge and experience, then you will have no problem understanding the story of Persona 5 Strikers, as it's pretty much a direct follow, well, it is a direct follow-up from the original and continues these lovable group of characters' story. But if you haven't played the original, then you might have a difficult time actually understanding what's really going on and following the story, as it pulls no punches and just assumes you are well versed in Persona 5 lore. Now, I honestly thought they could have really put a previously on Persona little video at the start, which you can skip if you played it. So if you haven't played Persona 5, then you can just get a little sort of brief analysis video of what happened in Persona 5, but obviously they didn't go that way. Now I will be approaching this part of the review from my point of view, and obviously my point of view is that I'm a massive Persona 5 fan and I've played Persona 5, and I have to say that this story is straight up awesome. Every character gets a chance to shine, and the introduction of a new character to the Phantom Thieves in Sophia, humanity's companion, adds nicely to the group's dynamic. So now I'm just going to break down the main overview of the story for you. 4 months after the events of Persona 5, Joker and Morgana return to Tokyo for a reunion with the other Phantom Thieves of Hearts to spend their summer vacation together on a camping trip. When preparing for said camping trip, they are pulled back into the metaverse via a new phone app called Emma. What follows is a quest taking them all over Japan. People's desires are being stolen, and it's up to you to find out why this is happening and, most importantly, to stop it. I will leave it there as I don't want to spoil anything else. The story is just really fun, and what I like is it takes you all over Japan to a lot of different locations with a lot of different aesthetics. As with the original game, the main heart and drive of the story is obviously the dynamic and the relationship between all the Phantom Thieves, and although the story of this game is probably not as good as the originals, it's still worth your time if you're a fan of the series. First, let's address the elephant in the room. The combat is now in real time as opposed to it being turn-based. And for Persona diehards, this is pretty much a big no-no. But Persona diehards also know that the Persona spin-offs for any game tends to change up the formula every so often. And I'm pleased to say that the combat is still pretty engaging and has at least some of the tactics that are present in turn-based games. This game has been developed by Omega Force, who obviously do the Dynasty Warriors games, so the combat is very similar to those types of games. So if you do not like the combat in that type of game, then this won't be for you, as it is a lot of button mashing. I'm okay with button mashing though, and although it's maybe not as intricate and combo driven as games such as Devil May Cry and Bayonetta, it's still cool. And where it maintains some of its Persona 5 strategy is that you can use your Persona's special moves to help defeat your enemies and to target weaknesses. At a touch of a button, it pauses the game and brings up a list of moves, and you can pick between your squad mates' moves as well by switching to them. It's really cool. This costs SP though, SP points, so you will still have to manage an SP bar. And like in Persona 5, you will have to know when to leave the jails, dungeons, and restock and restore your party. What I love about the combat though is the sheer amount of enemies that can be on screen at one time. You can have a pretty epic battle against at least 50 enemies at one time, and the boss battles are still as good as ever, and just the characters as well, the types of enemies you face are really cool, very similar to that of Persona 5, but the designs are so cool. The jails that replace the palaces from the original games are about 90% combat based, I would say. The other 10% is some minor platforming. The platforming is very standard and does nothing special, but it's a good way to break up the combat. Where this game is a bit lacking though is side content and stuff to do outside the jails. I love the social interaction and side quests of Persona 5, and to be honest, I almost preferred it to do in the palaces. This is not present in this game, and it's replaced by requests that mainly involve you going back to jails and killing specific enemies in specific ways and repeating boss battles. It's not a great compromise. To be honest, but I think Strikers is meant to be more of a streamlined Persona experience. So if you like the social interactions and the social side and the social simulator of Persona 5, this is definitely not for you. The upgrade system in the Velvet Room, where you create and upgrade your personas, is pretty much unchanged, except for your bond level that goes up by doing requests and missions. This allows you to add perks to your party and keep some of the RPG feel of the original game. This wouldn't be a good Persona review without mentioning the soundtrack. The soundtrack, like the originals, is absolutely amazing and is so funky. Lyn is back and on form. A lot of the old favourites on the original are back, like Last Surprise and Life Will Change, but they are slightly remixed and they're cool. The newer songs are just as catchy, and to be honest, the soundtrack just elevates the game. There's nothing better than fighting some shadows with Life Will Change pumping in the background. Overall, Persona 5 Strikers is a great continuation of the Phantom Thief story and puts a nice new spin on the Persona 5 formula. As I said earlier, it definitely feels like a more streamlined Persona experience that you can beat in about 30 hours as opposed to the 80 which it takes to beat Persona 5. Possibly more actually on Persona 5. The new combat mostly works, although it's a bit repetitive, and of course the soundtrack absolutely slaps. Is it going to bring in any new fans? Probably not. And if you're not a fan of the Dynasty Warriors style of combat, then this will not be for you. With all that being said though, I am going to give Persona 5 Strikers a rating of just good games. Thank you for watching this video. Now all I need you to do is subscribe, hit that like button, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. The links are down below, and watch the streams on Twitch, Just Good Games 18. Thanks again, and you have been watching Just Good Games.